Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now, let's get into today's tale. Supported my husband while he built his business, working double shifts, skipping meals, canceling vacations. When he finally made it, his mother said, "Now that he's successful, you don't fit the image." My husband agreed. I was asked to take a break from the marriage. I did. And while they traveled the world, I made one move that shattered it all. I met Ethan at a bus stop in Pittsburgh when I was 22. I was finishing a double shift, soaked from the rain, and he was standing there with no umbrella. I shared mine with him. We talked. It felt easy. He was a little older, studying business and coding on the side. He had big plans. I told him right away I wasn't from money. I was working 2 jobs and helping my mom pay off her medical debt. He said it didn't matter, that he respected my hustle. I liked hearing that. 2 years later, we got married. Courthouse wedding, nothing fancy. I wore a simple dress. He promised we'd have a real wedding when the business takes off. I believed him. I didn't care about the show. I just wanted a real life with him. From the beginning, I carried the weight. I worked at a medical clinic during the day. At night, I waitressed at a diner. I covered rent, food, gas, his car payment. When his business wasn't making money yet, was the one who kept everything going. I remember sneaking granola bars into my purse because I couldn't afford both groceries and gas. I canceled a vacation with my friends because he said, "I really need a new laptop this month." So I gave him the vacation money. He kept saying, "Once this takes off, we'll both be set. It's our future." I bought that line for 7 years, and then it actually did take off. One of his software tools, something to do with inventory and warehouse tracking, got picked up by a few local companies. Then a big one in New York signed. Suddenly he had real income. He hired a few people. We moved out of our small apartment into a house in Fox Chapel. I thought this was finally the time we'd be a team again, that I could rest. Instead, things started changing. He got a new wardrobe, sleek suits, custom shoes, started hanging around with guys who drove Jaguars and talked about angel rounds and growth hacking. I tried to be happy for him. I really did. But I felt it happening, like I was fading from the picture. He started making comments like, "Maybe don't wear your work shoes to the dinner tonight." Or, "I think you'd look better with lighter hair." Just saying. I laughed it off, thought he was just trying to help me fit into his new world. Then one day, his mom showed up. Vivian, a retired piano teacher who dressed like she was on the cover of a lifestyle magazine. She always had this tight-lipped smile, like she smelled something bad. From day one, she treated me like I was the charity case. Like Ethan had done me a favor marrying me. That Sunday, she was sitting at our kitchen island drinking her wine while I made lunch. She looked me up and down, like I was a problem that needed solving. Then she said it. "I'm just being honest, honey. Now that Ethan's successful, you don't fit the image anymore." I thought I misheard. I looked at Ethan, expecting him to shut her down. Instead, he just stared at his drink. Then he mumbled, "Maybe we should take a little break, figure out what we both want." My hands went cold. "What do you mean?" I asked. He just shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe we rushed into things. I think we need time apart." So I packed a bag and left. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just left. I got a tiny rental in Wilkinsburg, above a liquor store. The walls were thin, the carpet stank, and the only window faced an alley. I had to start over again, but something had shifted in me. I stopped thinking about saving the marriage. I started thinking about what I gave and what I was owed. That's when I remembered everything I had signed. Back when he couldn't qualify for credit, I co-signed his business cards. I set up his first QuickBooks account under my email. I registered his domain name using my name. I paid for his first software license with my personal account. And the most important one, I registered the software license agreement in my name. At the time, we didn't think it mattered. But legally, it still belonged to me. He never transferred ownership, never updated the contract. I made an appointment with a business lawyer in Squirrel Hill. He looked through all my documents and said, "You realize you still own this, right?" I nodded. He asked, "Do you want to keep it or make it hurt?" I said, "Both." We drafted a cease and desist, sent it to Ethan's office. He ignored it. Maybe he thought I was bluffing. Then we filed an injunction. I gave permission to shut down, access to the software on his client's end until the license issue was resolved. His whole system crashed. His clients panicked. One of his biggest investors pulled out. Meanwhile, I kept working my shifts. I didn't post anything online. I didn't tell a soul. I just waited. By the time he finally called me, he was desperate. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. I said, "You told me to take a break. I'm just using my time." He came by my apartment a few days later. He looked like hell. Bags under his eyes, tie half done, suit wrinkled. He tried to act calm, but his hands were shaking. He said, "What do you want?" I said, "What I gave, with interest." He tried to negotiate. I didn't bend. Not yet. Ethan didn't give up right away. After that first visit to my apartment, he started calling. First every few days, then every day. I didn't block him. I wanted to hear the panic in his voice, the man who once told me I wasn't part of. The image was now begging to talk as partners. He tried to guilt me. "You're hurting people who work for me," he said. "You didn't care when you hurt me," I said back. That shut him up. A few days later, I got a call from his lawyer. He wanted to offer a buyout of the license. His offer, $30,000. I laughed. The contract in question was tied to the very system his company was built on. Without it, he had no functioning back end. I knew the software better than he did. I helped design the workflow, back when he was clueless about how real businesses operate. He just wrote the code. I wrote the purpose. So I rejected the offer. I countered at $400,000. They called it insane. I didn't care. I told my lawyer to move forward with escalation. That week, I heard from a friend who used to work for Ethan. She said layoffs had started. His company couldn't deliver on its contracts. They were losing clients fast. She also told me something else. His mother, Vivian, she'd gone back to Connecticut, quietly. No dramatic goodbye, no show of loyalty. She told people Ethan had poor judgment and that she was too old to be part of a sinking ship. She bailed, the same woman who said I didn't. Fit the image. She was never in it for the long haul. Just like Ethan. Funny how people like that turn into shadows when things fall apart. A month later, Ethan sent me one last message. Just 3 words. "You win. Call me." I didn't call. I had my lawyer call instead. This time we negotiated hard. I demanded full payment for the license at market value, plus penalties for unauthorized use. I asked for everything in writing. I wanted him to admit on paper that the original product was built with my help and funded by my credit. I got it all, but I didn't stop there. My lawyer found out Ethan had moved certain assets, servers, software forks, under a shell LLC to hide them during negotiations. That was a mistake, a legal one. So I filed suit for fraud. This time, it wasn't just about the license. It was about everything. Ethan's world started crumbling faster than I expected. I never spoke to him again. Face to face, not once. But I did show up for the deposition. I sat across from him in a clean blouse, simple jeans, no makeup. I looked like the same woman he walked away from, but I wasn't. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. His lawyer kept him on a tight leash. He couldn't even look at me. I think that hurt him more than the money, the fact that I wasn't angry anymore. Just focused. When I walked out of that room, I felt weightless. For the first time in years, I thought the lawsuit and license settlement would be the end of it. I had the money, I had the power, I had made my point, but that wasn't the end. Not even close. About 2 months after the deposition, I got a message through my lawyer. Ethan was being investigated by the IRS. Apparently during the company's growth years, Ethan had been mixing business and personal funds. Lavish trips, luxury dinners, car payments for his mom, all written off as marketing expenses. They pulled his books apart. And guess who they contacted? Me, because I was listed as co-signer and partial stakeholder in the original setup. I still had digital. Access to a shared accounting portal he forgot to shut down. I had receipts, old ones, emails, invoices, that clearly showed misuse. I didn't lie. I gave them everything. It was just paperwork, nothing more. But the kind of paperwork that sinks people. Meanwhile, I kept working on my own thing. That nonprofit I mentioned? I got funding. A local bank sponsored a workshop I held for women who wanted to learn how to protect their business roles legally. I didn't tell my story publicly. I wasn't ready. But I helped women like me keep what they built. The whole time Ethan was spiraling, I heard from people around town that he'd moved into a rental in a less flashy part of town. He sold his Tesla. He stopped showing up at local business events. Word was he was losing more clients every week. Then came the twist. I didn't expect. I found out he'd started dating again. Not just anyone. His new girlfriend was one of the interns. I met once when I dropped off lunch at his old office. She must have been maybe 22 back then. Young, pretty, shiny, photo of them together online. His hand on her lower back, her smiling up at him like he was a hero. It hit me harder than I thought. It would even after all he'd done. Even after I destroyed his business. He was still trying to build a life that made it look like none of it mattered. Like I never happened. But then another twist, that same intern she messaged me first. I didn't respond, but she sent a second message that stopped me cold. I know you don't owe me anything, but I found something I think you should see. I didn't know what he did to you, but now I do. I'm sorry, attached was a screenshot of an email Ethan had. Forwarded private files, tax documents, contracts, even our divorce draft to his girlfriend. He was asking her for help rebuilding the company using everything that worked before he literally tried to rebuild a new version of the same software using my file. She didn't just move on. He tried to copy the very thing I took back. I forwarded the screenshot to my lawyer. That's intellectual property theft. We filed again this time. I went for an injunction and Damageezy was done. Giving warnings. This man had used me, discarded me, and was now trying to recycle my work, like I was some disposable blueprint. Not anymore. He fought it. Of course he did. His lawyer argued that I was being vindictive. I didn't care what they said. I showed up with proof emails, code similarities, server logs, even timestamps from my original work, and that intern she testified on my behalf said he lied to her, said she wanted nothing to do with his mess. Ethan looked like a ghost in that courtroom. His hands shook his face, was pale, but I didn't feel sorry anymore. This wasn't about heartbreak, it was about justice, and I wasn't finished. Yet he used to think revenge meant screaming matches or burning bridges. But that's not what it looked like for me. It looked like paperwork. Facts, patience, and silence. I won the second lawsuit. The judge ruled in my favor again. Ethan was ordered to pay damages for unauthorized use of my intellectual property. He was fined heavily. He also had to submit a formal admission that the work he used was originally mine. That document is now framed and hanging in my office. His girlfriend. She disappeared from his life right after the trial. She messaged me once more and said, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know who he really was. Thank you for standing up." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The final blow came 6 months later. I got a call from someone I hadn't heard from in years. His former co-founder, a guy named Miles, who had left early in the company's history. He told me something I didn't expect. The IRS wasn't done with Ethan. He owed back taxes, penalties, and interest from all the shady write-offs. The total was over 6 figures. He had already sold the business name and whatever was left of it to a competitor at a huge loss just to keep the lights on, but it wasn't enough. He had drained his savings, sold his car. His reputation was gone. Investors blacklisted him. He filed for personal bankruptcy that fall, and that house in Fox Chapel, the one I helped pay for with my double shifts, skipped meals and sleepless nights. It went on the market, foreclosed. I went to the open house. I walked through every room, slowly, quietly. I didn't say who I was. I just looked. The marble kitchen where his mom told me I wasn't good enough. The master bedroom where I once laid awake wondering what I did wrong. The empty garage where his shiny Tesla used to sit. I stood in the living room and smiled. The real estate agent asked if I was interested. I said, "No, just visiting an old ghost." I left without looking back, but there was still one piece left. Vivian, Ethan's mother, had avoided everything, hid behind her rich name and old friends. She hadn't spoken my name in public since the breakups. I paid a visit, not to her house, to her country club. One of the women from my nonprofit invited me as a guest to a women in business luncheon. I accepted. I knew Vivian would be there. She still played piano at events and chaired a few charity boards. I showed up dressed simply nothing flashy, just confident. She noticed me right away. Her expression dropped. I didn't confront her. I didn't need to. But during the Q&A session, I was asked to stand and share what inspired me to create my nonprofit. Kept it short. I gave everything I had to support someone else's dream. When I was no longer good enough, I was thrown away. So I took a break, and I built something better in my own name now. I help other women do the same, so they never feel powerless the way I once did. There was silence, then applause. And I locked eyes with Vivian the whole time. She looked down at her wine glass like it might save her from sinking. I left before dessert. That was enough today. I own my home. I run 2 successful women's business groups. I'm working on a book. I'm not bitter anymore. But I am sharp, clear, focused. Ethan and Vivian thought I was a stepping stone. They didn't realize I was the foundation. And when you crack the foundation, the whole house falls. They wanted me to take a break, so I did. And I came back. Stronger than they ever imagined. They didn't just lose me, they lost everything, and I built something they'll never touch again.